Hello, and welcome to Inconsequential Souls. Alright, so today, this Let's Play was going to be post commentary. And I guess I'll explain why this ultimately wind up being post commentary rather than the usual live commentary. So, first off, it's just an error on my part. Um, when I was doing the recording, I forgot to make sure that the sound, well, I would say the sound input was, for the game and not something else. So it was just an error on my part. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because the commentary for the Let's Play was pretty bad anyway. And now that's the part that's a little bit more interesting. Okay, so let me explain why the commentary was really bad. All right, so usually playing in a just an assassin for this specific Let's Play, but usually when you play as a stealth character, um, there's a certain amount of control that you have over battle, and that power that you have kind of compensates for a lot of things, like the fact you don't do a whole lot of damage, the fact that you can't take a whole lot of hits, and the fact that you're usually not armored, or getting hit isn't really something that you worry too much about because you don't plan on it, and if you do, um, it's not going to be often, so it's something you can kind of patch up and keep moving on with. It's just not a big deal because getting hit isn't something that you plan on happening. Now, normally in a Dark Souls game, because the enemies are so, I guess, predictable and kind of easy to read, like once you give them a chance to, kind of show you what it is that they have. And sometimes there's a few surprises here and there, but for the most part, enemies are very predictable, and you can kind of control their behavior. In Dark Souls 3, you can kind of do that, but there's little chaotic circumstances that sometimes prevent you from giving the proper response. So it's not always action A. You want to do action B for action A. When action B happens, you perform action. When action A happens, you perform action B. It's not always that simple, and it's kind of difficult to explain why that is. Uh, but I'm going to do that during this post commentary because just for now, I'm not giving a final review on the game, but just for now, my point is that I'm really enjoying how the enemies respond to what you do in this game, and this is aside from everything else that I enjoy. So I just want to focus on that for now. So I want to say that I really enjoy the enemies, and they gave me much more of a challenge in this Dark Souls game than I've ever had in any Dark Souls game I've ever played. That being said, so let me get into a little bit more of the esoteric realm, and this is where I might sound like I'm rambling, but trust me, I'm trying to make a point here, but it's really difficult to kind of explain because this game does a lot of things so well. So what happened is the game got under my skin. And when I say that, I mean in the sense where there were certain parts where I was absolutely terrified. And it was the type of feeling that I just couldn't shake, where, it wasn't in game, where I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to die. I wasn't thinking that with my character. Uh, even though I was killed quite a few times trying to go through this level, death wasn't something I feared. you'll see most of the times that I died, it was mostly because the enemies were very intelligent, and they would put me in positions where I didn't really have a whole lot of options. So I really gotta give the designers credit on that one. All right, so now the real problem came when I wasn't the hunter and I was being hunted. And what I mean by that is the game hit a very um, sharp contrast. It almost felt like a really sharp turn. Now, as you can see here, I'm kind of scouting the area. Now, this is me just testing out my tools. I'm not really doing any true scouting, just kind of getting a feel for the area, and just getting some screenshots as well. But whilst I'm doing this, you'll see that the game gives you all of this freedom to kind of really choose like your pathing and the best way to go about tackling like certain areas. But what happens is the game suddenly hits this sharp curve where the area goes from being this really open space where you can do a lot of scouting and a lot of planning to these really cramped areas that have these ambient noises where you feel as though enemies can pop out from almost anywhere. Now what happened is usually I try to observe the area really closely so I can spoil ambushes and pretty much go through an area safely. Now you can do that in this game, but it trains you to have so many behaviors and then suddenly just changes the rules on you. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's a very fair I would say it's a very fair way that it's executed. It's just that you have to adapt to the situation right then and there, or it can mean the end for you. Now, as you see here, I come up to this guy and everything goes wrong. But, I'm still in control, so I'm able to, pretty much put him away. Now, then I try to go to this enemy, and I'm under the impression that, okay, you see me, but he doesn't. So I backstab him. And that kind of terrified me because I was under the impression that I was in control of that situation. And this is where it gets interesting. Now, this is where I want to talk about, excuse me, enemy AI and scripted behavior. Now, it seems as though enemies have, their normal attack patterns, how it is that they'll chase you, their aggression, usual things like that that you can kind of control and predict. However, a lot of these encounters really feel handcrafted. And what I mean by that is they're designed in a way to really surprise the player, even if you feel as though you have everything under control. And what I mean by that is there's been times when I went through certain areas and I was pretty comfortable with enemy behaviors and placements, but depending on where it is that you're located, those behaviors and scripts and placements will adapt to you. And that's something that I didn't expect. And you might see it. Okay, so let me give an example that'll come up later in the video. Alright. So much later in the video, you'll see that there's a certain powerful knight. One of the more powerful enemies in the game that'll pretty much give you a pretty good challenge. I guess depending on what weapon you're using and the type of class that you're using, he'll give you a pretty decent challenge. Now, there's a script or a certain design where this character or this enemy will walk out of the door or walk out of a door, depending on how you enter a room. On the flip side, when you're exiting a certain part of the level, it'll be the opposite, where he'll be coming out of a door. Now, this is where I started to really understand what I was up against when I was expecting him to, usually walk out of the door, and then I would just avoid him and go after the other enemies in the room. So I decided that I was going to move a little faster, and then I noticed, and I stopped dead in my tracks. I did adapt to the situation, but I stopped dead in my tracks, and I noticed that he turned around. And that's when I knew that this game was going to demand a little bit more from me than I was prepared to give it. So that means that, in summary, that this game deserves much more of my respect than I was giving it. And it was kind of a really tense situation, because not only did I realize that, well, yeah, you're underperforming, even though you were rewarded for how you were playing in the very beginning of the level, now you're going to have to take it up a notch, because these enemies aren't going to fall for the same tricks that you were using in previous games and maybe in the first beginning levels. You're going to have to adapt, and you're going to have to change your tactics up a little bit. Now, even though that absolutely, well, it didn't terrify me. There were other things that terrified me. It threw me off my game. Now, that's bad enough, because as an assassin, you really have to be precise about your movements and the decisions that you make, whilst the game is demanding that you make new decisions on the fly. So I really got this feeling of a real life chaotic situation, where just like in real life, and I'm just saying this in theory, like if you study a target, like say you're an assassin or some kind of spy, and you're studying a target's behavior before you make a move or execute whatever job it is that you've been hired to do. You study them so then you can know their patterns, and you can know where you need to be, how you need to behave, how you need to act, when your openings are going to be, etc., etc., before you make any of your moves. And there's always that one chance where they'll change their behavior, though unlikely, and you'll be discovered or caught, or you'll end up being put in a situation where you have to adapt, or be killed, or be compromised. The usual thing. The game has a very interesting way of making that a reality almost every step that you take in this specific area. And I'm really looking forward to more of that as I continue. But I mean, I really didn't expect it to be this challenging. Now, that isn't to say that I'm not going to adapt. Like now, well, what I did is, once I realized that I needed to change my way of thinking, I took a break. I was like, okay, let me absorb everything that I've learned here, and then start making smarter choices. Now, I'm not sure what the game's going to throw at me later, but that's definitely something that I'm going to keep in the back of my mind as I continue this playthrough. So yes, enjoy watching me get wrecked quite a few times in this specific playthrough. Okay. Alright, so philosophically, alright, this is just for fun. It almost felt like, going through this area, it felt like certain areas were similar to the discussion that Bane and Batman had about the darkness. When he was forced to approach, or I would say engage Bane in his own territory. And it was something to the extent of you simply adopted the dark, but I was born in it. It really felt that way sometimes with some of the ambushes in this game, man. Like, I could see a lot of them from a mile away, and it kind of gave me this false sense of security that if you kind of just somewhat pay attention to your environment, you'll be okay. Not true at all. There are some ambushes that they just they're so well designed that unless you just have a really good line of sight, you're not going to see it coming. And if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, you're done. And it's designed so well that it's fair. Like I okay, so let me explain my personal position. It's always been this philosophy that I never agreed with until more recently, that Dark Souls games were punishing but fair. I never believed that, especially with Dark Souls 1. Like, I never believed that that game was punishing but fair, regardless of what, the popular consensus is. I never agreed with it. And, to back that up, I would say that my first death in that game, playing as a thief, even though I wasn't very good at it, my first playthrough as a thief, my first death was to slipping off of some kind of log in Blighttown. Till this day, I have no idea how it is you're supposed to get across there safely, but I did, to retrieve my souls. I ended up okay. So this is this enemy right here. This is the one who changes his behavior to adjust to where it is that you are in the area, and it's really well done. But you'll see an example of that. I'll try to point it out later in a let's play. But yes, my first death in a Dark Souls in the first Dark Souls game was due to I'm gonna try to do a plunging attack. It's really hard to place those well. I'm gonna do more. I'm gonna practice those a little bit better because that's gonna be beneficial. But it's really tough to place those well, even though they give you more tools to do it right. And as you can see here, I didn't really know how to approach this enemy, and then that's my first death. So this is where everything starts to go wrong. But yeah, I slipped off of a log in Blighttown, and then I believe my second death, it was really cheap. So I don't recall. I think maybe I fell through an elevator or something like that, but I don't really remember. And then I believe my third death was to an invasion. It was a really unfair situation because I totally got the drop on my enemy and everything, and I believe I backstabbed him and took about like 1% of his health or something like that. So I mean, there were some deaths after that that were totally, my fault. But it's just the fact that because the first few of them were so cheesy, and it was nothing I could do. This is me trying to style on enemies. But yeah, there was really nothing I could do in those situations. Like, I could never agree with that punishing but fair analysis of the game. I would say that about this game, where this game really punishes you, but it does it in a very fair and a very rewarding way, where you don't feel like you were cheated. You feel as though I should have been paying more. Like, and I love that feeling that even though I would say that I'm a pretty competent stealth player, this game really made me feel like a novice. And it really upset me, but it really made me feel good at the same time, letting me know that there's still room for growth in my gameplay. And the fact that this game's going to help me develop much better, I would say, metagame for playing as a stealth character, that has me pretty excited for the future. Okay, so the level contrast, as you can see there, that I believe that area there, if you're able to reach that successfully, that small area that I just left is a perfect example of them trying to train you as well. That's another thing I want to discuss. Okay, so another thing that I think is fair about how this game is designed is it doesn't just kind of change the rules on you like, okay, now watch this ambush here. I really enjoyed this. Now I'm so focused on this powerful enemy that it allows this weaker enemy to get the drop on me. Even though I clearly saw him, I was distracted. It's so well designed. I really enjoy that. And I kind of just regain power and then get rid of this enemy so then I can go deal with the more powerful one. But the game introduces things to you in increments, and it doesn't just change the rules all of a sudden. So you can't really, I mean, you can complain about a lot of things, but it doesn't seem unfair, at least to me. And this is coming from a person who's never believed the punishing but fair analysis in Dark Souls games, not even a little bit. And that room's a perfect example of them showing you that yes, certain areas of this map are going to become cramped, so get used to it. And that's my stealth attack. Now, I want to analyze this fight. Now, the mistake that I was making here is I clearly had the upper hand, but I allow my overconfidence in my ability to outmaneuver this opponent rather than simply closing the fight out. Now, I clearly had an S-stock that could have pretty much ended this battle here. And as you can see, I risked myself way too much. But I could concluded this. I could have concluded this fight much sooner by simply using Shield Splitter and then just getting him before he could recover. But now, as you can see, I more so have to just outmaneuver him by just keeping distance and waiting for him to make mistakes, and then punish his mistakes. But really good fight though. Yeah, really good fight. And as you can see, he has a very little bit of health, but it was still a very close battle. And that was very enjoyable. It almost felt like fighting an actual player. I really like the enemy AI this time around. Okay, so now let's talk about the player's control of situations. Now, as you can see here, I'm about to spoil an ambush, and I use a firebomb to do that. This is another clever thing. Now, you see how you could say that enemy's stupid because normally you can just firebomb him to death because he's not going to move. What it seems that they've done is now consumable items and projectile items and things like that you could usually use to exploit enemies who had very limited responses to what it is that you were doing. You have to be smart about when and how you use those items, because now you don't have the ability to just stack 99 of them and pretty much just plow your way through the level by cheesing an enemy to death. Now, you can do it, but the thing is now I can't say there's so many, but there's very key situations where, especially if you're not familiar with an area, there's key situations where that is probably your best bet. But if you use up those items too soon, You won't have them for those key situations. And there are situations where it just makes things a lot easier if you cheese it. But there are some situations where it would make your life so much better if you just get rid of certain ambushes. But you don't have any more tools, or you've used up your resources and things like that. So basically, the reason I enjoy this is because it's a callback to one of my favorite games, Tenshu Stealth Assassins. And basically, with your ninja tools, is you had a very limited supply of them. Now, they were very powerful tools, yes, but very powerful and very limited tools. So at the end of the day, you still have to have some kind of skill. Okay, now this is an example of what I mean. I had such a difficult time acknowledging the fact that these characters had the ability to do some of the very same things that I did. So, in usual circumstances, you would see that enemies, when they throw projectiles at you, it would be something like a firebomb, or a little bit more of a slower projectile, or maybe shoot like a ball at you, or maybe like some kind of arrow. But in this one, as you can see, he's throwing something like a throwing knife, and it was so difficult to adapt to that situation that, as you can see, it caused me. It put me in a situation where I could die numerous times, and I don't know. It was just so. It was so tough to try to get control of that situation. But I did, and I was able to move on from that. But that's just an example of what I mean with stuff being so well designed. So what has me excited, like right now, is these quick decisions and strategies that you have to make on the fly are just gameplay mechanics. Like, I'm not even talking about like storyline and character interaction and stuff like that. I have very limited knowledge with that part of this game so far, but this is just basic game mechanics, like just the combat and everything. I don't know. It's tough to say that. Oh, now watch this. I want to show you just how chaotic things can be. Now look, I thought I did everything right, but I still ended up dying because that one element changed everything. Whereas that guy who I shouldn't have ignored, I should have just hunted him down and got rid of him. I ignored him, and he ended up causing me problems later on. It's just little details like that where a circumstance. Oh, there it is. I don't know if you've seen it, but usually that knight just walks right out of that door. But as you can see, when I tried to go through the level a little faster, he changed his behavior slightly. And had I not been paying attention, he would have saw me, and my life would have been a lot more difficult. Yeah, that's a perfect example. But yes, these are just gameplay mechanics where you're forced to make important and critical choices on the fly. And one mistake or one decision that you make has consequences in the future. Now, I guess some of those can be short-term consequences. Some can be long-term. So far, I've only seen the short-term consequences. I've never, I don't think I've ever had a situation where long-term consequences had an effect. Mostly because I'm playing as an assassin, so I don't think there's any type of room for me to be sloppy in that sort of way where a situation haunts me in the future. Like usually, and especially considering now, I'm gonna try to be a little bit more conclusive with combat, which would help a lot. I really need to start using my S stock more and my abilities more, my weapon arts a little bit more. And oh, so this is a perfect example. So I'm realizing that turtling isn't going to be an option for me. Now I blocked that move basically just to kind of get a feel for what it is that I needed to be doing. But as you can see, like, this enemy has total control over the situation, and I'm just hoping that I can regain control by doing something that I usually don't do, which is spam a lot of attacks. Now the thing is, it's like I was trying to be as precise as possible, but I was very sure that he was going to poise right through what I did. Bam! And dead. Now, who knew that an enemy would kill themselves just to take you out? Like that, I'm pretty convinced that even if I was at full health in that circumstance, I would have still probably died from that. But that's a perfect example of the types of things that can happen where I rushed into that situation, you know, not even considering the idea that such a weak enemy could be so devastating. And it's so many situations like that, and they're so unique that the handcrafted behaviors for these enemies, like you just, they're so well done. Like I can't, like, watch this. So I attack him and it aggroes him. So these enemies, I'm assuming, are designed to kind of attack you in pairs. But as you can see, like, for some reason that guy decided to stay back. So, well, my point is, there's not this whole assembly line effect where all of the enemies do exactly what you want them to do. Like, I would assume that after I attacked him, he would run after me, but he didn't. He stayed exactly where he was, and another enemy came and tried to approach me. Well, and tried to engage me. So, I mean, I can speak about how impressed I am about how chaotic sometimes situations can get. That I don't know. I would probably take up this entire discussion just talking about that, but I won't. When I've expressed, I think I've expressed myself enough to where if you just kind of watch the gameplay, you know, with a different set of eyes, maybe you'll see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Now that I've kind of clued you in, you know, if you didn't already know. Now this is another circumstance where I could have just clearly concluded this match between me and this opponent, but I wasn't using my resources. But yeah, I can go on and on about it, but so I'll go ahead and move on. But I just want to emphasize like how well done. Like you could feel the hand. Like obviously you'll notice when you look at the level designs that they have a very handcrafted feel. Like I've seen someone who gave a review say about how each brick looks like an individual brick that was actually laying. That's very true. You can see that. That's very obvious. But I kind of feel like the combat with player versus enemy is designed with just as much care, and I really like it. Like as you can see, he can't see me because I'm hiding around a corner. Like I'm not sure if that would work in any other type of Dark Souls game. So as you can see, they've clearly acknowledged the fact that some people are going to be interested in alternative gameplay such as stealth, and I'm impressed to see that it was implemented so well. Like that I can't express enough. Like I truly believe that playing a stealth class in this game could possibly be. We'll have to see. I still have a lot more game to play, but we'll see. But I'm feeling now that this might be a lot more challenging than a game like Tenchu, where I mean, it's almost conclusive, but I don't want to say that just yet. I really want to give the game its opportunity to shine in a way that maybe I've never seen, or maybe even let me down in a way that I don't foresee or couldn't possibly see right now. So I'll just leave it at that. Like right now, I'm pretty convinced that this is probably one of the most challenging games that I've tried to implement a stealth gameplay aspect with. That it's given me so much trouble, and I'm loving every minute of it. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are the weapon arts, and my opinion on them right now. So, yeah, just now, I mean, for this playthrough, and me not having experience with other weapons just yet, except for of course the dagger and the S-stop. Weapon arts aren't the, I would say, get out of jail free card that I was kind of expecting. And that's not a bad thing, it's just a very surprising thing. I was under the impression, because the weapon arts weren't an infinite resource, or I guess an infinitely powerful resource, whereas once you depleted your focus point meter, that they wouldn't be nearly as good as they were when you first started. I was under the impression that they would be a little bit more powerful. Now, when I say that, this isn't to insinuate that they're not very powerful already. What I mean is, and this is for the assassin class at the moment, because I don't have experience with any other class types. But for example, the shield splitter. With the S stock, I was kind of surprised that. Well, okay, so in all the other Dark Souls games, I used to kind of like a weapon called Mailbreaker, and it's just a dagger that had an ability to pierce through shields. So that's been continued. Instead of being a strong attack, it's more of a weapon art in this game, I'm assuming. I've never used the Mailbreaker quite yet, but I'm assuming that that's the case. But with the Mailbreaker, it just kind of looked like a normal attack, but it had shield piercing properties. And if your opponent didn't realize what was going on, you could easily drain them enormous amount of HP really fast with a really diverse and I would say underappreciated weapon. So it was really good. In this game, at least from what I understand, shield piercing is a little bit more deliberate and a little bit more skill based, where the Mailbreaker was great, mostly because of, I would say, lack of familiarity with the weapon. So you would normally have an advantage over your opponent because maybe they weren't used to opponents having that weapon. That's not the case. Okay, so let me show you a quick example now. Clearly I have Spook, right? And I should have been using it, but now this has nothing to do with gameplay. This is just a common mistake of me giving you an example of how the game started to psychologically get to me. Whereas I started making really stupid mistakes. You know, like I'm not sure if I would have survived that if I had cast Spook, but the fact that I didn't just go ahead and cover my bases and do it, um, I have no explanation. As you can see, uh, so well done. So very well done. But yes, I just started making really stupid mistakes. And this is around the time when I decided, okay, um, I'm just gonna start being a little bit more mobile and realize that as an assassin, my mission is to try to kill as fast as possible, or if it's necessary, but not try to engage every situation as if it's vitally important to do so. And so, as you can see, because I already have experience with those enemies, and I've already, well, not all of them, well, not those enemies specifically either. It's just that I know how to kill those enemies, but I come to the conclusion that the resources and the risk involved in doing so aren't worth the trouble. So I decide it's best to just not do it. And again, as you can see, I'm just forgetting my resources. Okay, so all right, I'm glad that I brought that up. Okay, so when I was saying that the weapon arts, or I would say any ability that uses focus points, isn't necessarily a get out of jail free card. Excuse me. What I mean is, you always have to be ready and willing to use them when the opportunities present themselves. They're not just going to be passively effective. Like, you have to be using these arts. And like, for example, with Shield Splitter, you can't just keep doing that attack and expect, if you have a opponent turtling, and expect to just conclusively win that fight. You still have to engage that enemy with your own skill and abilities, because Shield Splitter isn't going to just win that fight for you. Whereas with a Mail Breaker, it pretty much would. You could lock an opponent down, and if you were pretty sure that they didn't know what was going on, you could just, as long as you had the stamina and the will to keep going, you could basically close the fight out with that weapon really easily. Whereas here, when you use Shield Splitter with the S stock, I'm not sure about the Mail Breaker, the opponent still blocks the move. So they don't, I believe that it causes a little bit more shield stun than normally. And as you can see, I did everything right, and it still went wrong. And then when I kill this enemy, and this is totally not likely to spam attacks, but I had to get control of that situation. Surprise! Another enemy comes. Like, this is the chaos that I'm talking about. Like, it's just so well done. And as you'll see in the future, when I come back here and I handle the situation a little bit more differently, you'll notice that doesn't happen. Like, it's not a guaranteed event. Like, that circumstance happened almost in a I would say in a so well crafted way that had I made a different choice, or let's say, for example, had I been out of Estus, I would have probably died there. But I didn't do anything special either than just do what made sense. And so, that's just a perfect example of the chaos that can happen. But okay, so with Shield Splitter, the enemy, I believe, I'm not saying this is for sure, I'm just saying with my experience, they get a little bit more shield stun, where they have a difficult time responding to your attack after your weapon connects with their shield. Now see, that's another ambush. Now I was going to engage those enemies when they both had their backs turned, but because I totally didn't know about that enemy upstairs, that would have went wrong, and I would have done everything right. It's just that because I didn't have a field of vision of that enemy, he would have spoiled my entire engagement, and it could have turned into a complete mess, and I could have died from that. So, but yes. Um, so the thing is, like with shield splitter, it seems as if it's a move that you kind of have to use maybe conclusively, or as I was saying before, where maybe you get the drop on your enemy and then you close the fight out by using something like shield splitter, relying on the fact that they're going to be more defensive because now they're in panic mode, and then you can still get a large chunk of damage, and then if the opponent still survives that, close the fight out with other resources that you might have at your disposal. So it seems like a very, I wouldn't say very circumstantial move, but it's not something that's abusable. You know, you do have to be careful about when and how you use it. And it's in the same vein as I was saying before, as like your ninja tools or like your consumable items such as your fire bombs and your throwing daggers. You don't get 99 of them anymore. You know, just as you don't get an infinite amount of shield splitters anymore. Like there's only, well, I would say a limited amount of effective shield splitters, because I believe shield splitter still works even if you don't have the focus points to do it, but I don't think it's nearly as effective. And I also believe that it leaves you a little bit, just a little bit open to enemy attack uh, when you use it. Now, as you can see, like here, yes, chaotic. Uh, well, what I was trying to do there was to ensure that they attacked me, so then I could get down safely without worrying about a plunging attack. Because these enemies, see, this is the thing, these enemies feel so intelligent that I almost felt as though, yeah, they're expecting me to go ahead and jump down. And what they're going to do is they're going to wait, and then they're going to do a plunging attack on me, and they're going to kill me. Now, what was dangerous about that situation was that there was two of them. So even if one of them missed me, I was certain that the other one was going to get me. So I was so concerned with them doing something like that that I tried to make sure that they used up their attack. So then I had more than enough time to recover once I landed. But as you can see, like, it was the wrong decision. And I just can't express how happy I am with how these enemies are designed, where, as you can see, I'm giving them, well, I'm not quite giving them the respect that they deserve, but I'm, at this point, like, I'm trying my best under the circumstances, because I promise you, at this point, the game was starting to get to me psychologically. Now, these areas I pretty much felt as though I had a lot of control in, but the more cramped areas where things got really chaotic and your field of view was really poor. Now here you can see a repeat of a similar situation, but not quite the one previously. But as you can see, I'm waiting for the dog to come and try to attack me, and dog's not there. So well done. And I'm almost kind of curious if I could have, done the very same thing previously, and there was no dog, and then try to repeat the same thing, and then there'd be a dog there, and it just kind of completely throws me off my game. I'm not sure if that's something that can happen, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Everything is so well done that, something like that only seems business as usual, really. And I have, don't get me wrong, I do realize that I have a lot more to learn because I'm still new to this game. But with everything that I'm seeing right now, uh, I wouldn't be surprised if that was, just something normal that happens each playthrough. And I'm not even sure about New Game Plus, but that kind of has me excited as well. But we'll see. But yeah, focus point attacks and weapon arts, not a get out of jail free card. You still have to have some kind of skill and competency using those arts, and it's not, it doesn't end a fight for you. You still have to be intelligent, and you still have to, use your wits, and you still have to, I guess, know what you're doing. Like, I don't know. I'm having difficulty trying to explain it because I'm so impressed, and I don't want that to. I don't want that to get in the way of me just expressing like how I really feel at this point without it trying to seem like I'm praising the game a whole lot, because I kind of think that I'm just giving credit where credit's due, and I just want to be patient about any type of anything that would seem like a review at this point, or a conclusive judgment about the game overall. I just want to ensure that this is just focused on what I'm discussing, which would be the handcrafted feel of the PvE so far and stealth gameplay. So I don't want to insinuate or make anybody or have anybody be under the impression that I'm giving a conclusive review, because I'm not doing that. Like, there's still a lot of game to play, and there's still a lot about this game that I don't know. So I just wanted to make that clear if I haven't already. Okay. Now, the last and final thing that I want to discuss is the format that I want to use when doing this Let's Play. Now, the live commentary, I think that's going to be fun. Okay, so see, this is my problem, is in some situations I feel kind of rushed because there's tense situations where I get so engrossed in the game that I'll see a tense situation and I'll get really silent, because at that moment I'm thinking about what should I do, and at that moment I'm not really engaging, you guys, the audience, and telling you my thoughts. And because as an assassin class it requires a lot of patience and waiting and studying your enemy, I wasn't sure, because of how the game has since evolved, I wasn't sure if that would, if that would be the best format for these Let's Plays. I mean, for anyone who's enjoying this series right now, you kind of tell me, your opinions on it, because I mean, I have my own, but for the most part, I'm more, I want to ensure that the content that I create is enjoyable. So either way for me, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm having fun playing the game. I just want to make sure that it's enjoyable to actually watch as well. So I have to be careful about how it is that how I produce this content. So if you don't, like I'm saying, if you don't mind that sometimes I might go completely silent, or that my character will be standing around for long periods of time just studying an area and not making any real progress, because situation might be a little bit difficult to analyze. I didn't want it to be difficult to watch, or uh, I don't know, because, well, all right, I was kind of trying to avoid saying this, but I'll just be honest. Is I know stealth gameplay isn't for everyone, and I mean that in a sense of the type of games that people enjoy, and as well as just watching it, because uh, I'm sure, for example, like you'll have like Marines or soldiers who will lay underwater for hours on end, waiting for enemies to pass by. And like, say for example, if a movie was to actually show that, where half of the movie was just the soldiers hiding under, like a foot of water, waiting for enemies to pass by, that would make for a very enjoyable movie experience. It's only obvious that you maybe show a little bit of that, just so that the audience understands what's happening, and then you move on. But you kind of give the impression that the soldiers were waiting under the water for a very long time through other means, but you don't physically make the audience watch that. And that's kind of how let's these let's plays might end up being. Now, I did try to take into consideration that there were people watching, so I didn't. I was trying to move through the areas a little bit more quickly than usual, which also might be the reasons for a lot of my deaths. But again, stuff like that can always be edited out or shortened. But thus comes the question of format. Now, if there is a situation where I might have to patiently wait, would it be better to just have an edited video, with the highlights and maybe the more interesting bits, or would you prefer, something more like the live commentary, where you're seeing and watching everything as it's happening? So, if anybody enjoys this content and has an opinion, or any type of input or feedback about that, like I'd be glad to hear it, because I'm still not sure at this point. Now, I am kind of certain that the people who enjoy this content do understand and appreciate stealth gameplay, but everyone has a limit, and you still have to be reasonable to a certain extent. Like, nobody wants to watch a character standing in one place, for long periods of time. Like, there is a certain point, where that just starts to get kind of boring. So I understand that, and that's why I'm curious as to how this let's play should I don't know, the oh wow, yeah, how it should develop over time. Like, I'm still like not sure about that, or I mean, not necessarily develop, but I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of a reasonable way to say it, but how it should be formatted, I guess. Like, I'm curious about the format. Like, what type of format do you think you'd enjoy? Uh, do you enjoy the live commentary? Did you enjoy like this format much better? Just let me know your thoughts on that. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the game so far. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing, and looking forward to more of it. And we still have DLC to look forward to and all that. So, yeah, I'm really happy, and I'm having a lot of fun. So, yeah, I love the level design and the atmosphere. I mean, when I tell you, like, I was terrified, it wasn't the type of terror that you get from a jump scare, or nothing cheesy like that. Like, it was the type where you build up a lot of tension, and you get used to a whole lot of nothing, and then the next thing you know, once you get comfortable with the idea that nothing's gonna happen, that's when something bad happens, and it's not a jump scare. It's just a really uncertain situation. So, I mean, I couldn't control it. Like as you can see, like I tried to keep my composure. I feel as though if I I felt it was okay to be a little bit more patient and calm my nerves, like my own real life nerves, I probably would have performed a lot better. But I also enjoy the fact that I didn't. Like, this is probably the first game. Well, I can't call it a stealth game, but the first game that I chose to play stealth in that really had me breaking my composure in ways that I never foresaw or have ever had happen to me before. And it really affected my performance. Like, as you can see, like I still have certain motor reflexes built in on how to respond to situations naturally, but again, it's little details like not using techniques when I should be, getting comfortable in situations where I really shouldn't, and second guessing myself. Like, that's probably the biggest one, is the second guessing, like, because it's so chaotic. Like, a lot of times I'm just like, yes, this is a perfect opportunity in most games, because everything kind of comes in packets and it's very scripted, and as long as you understand, you know, where enemies are going to be or how they're going to behave, which might be a thing in here, I still have to see, but everything just feels, you know, right now it feels so chaotic, and I really like that, how unpredictable things tend to be sometimes. And of course, like watch this go completely wrong. See, just that alone, I just decided. Now, see, this is me starting to kind of be a little bit more intelligent about what it is that I do. Like here, I just decided, okay, I'm out of supplies, and I can't engage these things, and they're still getting a piece of me. Now, I still feel as though I have everything under control. I'm using everything that I've learned so far, and I decide to make a break for it. I remember all of this, and I just go, no, I survived that situation, and I act like an assassin, and I go to try to get to my goal, and I succeed. Now, at this point, I was expecting everything that I did to come, or all the mistakes that I...
You're no jailer, are you? No, you're from far away. And judging by the bell, you must be some of that unkindled ash. Remarkable. If that's true, then I have a favor to ask. Below the high wall is a musty little town. Not the home of any lord, just a very old settlement of undead. An old woman, Loretta, lives there. Please, give her this ring. I'm not asking for charity. In fact, if you do this for me, I'll be sure to repay you in kind. I may be a petty thief, but I've more wits than most royalty. What do you say then, huh? Very well. I humbly place my faith in you. I am Grey Rat of the Undead Settlement, and I promise to assist you. Give this ring to old Loretta at the base of the high wall. Do your part, and I'll do mine.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to talk over him while he was giving his dialogue, but yeah, I was expecting everyone to come and attack me, and I was like, oh please, I hope this door can close, but it couldn't. And that's just a perfect example of like me losing my composure. Like I I was expecting to die there. But it was mostly when the door didn't close. I was like, yep, this is where I'm gonna die. But at least I got the cage open. So here, I already know that if I go back the way that I came, after I explore, but if I go back the way that I came, um, I'm probably not gonna survive that. Now I don't have a whole lot of souls on me, but I just want to make it a habit, from now on to make smart choices. And so I decided to go ahead and do that for once. And I decided to just go ahead and get back to safety. So anyway, just tell me your thoughts and let me know what it is that you want to see. And I hope you enjoyed this content. Later.